Welcome back to the Paranormal Girl podcast. I am your host, Kristen. Happy October, everybody. I have got a fantastic show prepared for you today to kick it all off. My guest has some incredible knowledge and passion for the subject of the cryptid. So much so, he has authored an entire series of books dedicated to these creatures. And we will get into some of these creatures in these absolutely outstanding books, as well as all of the other platforms and ways that he promotes education about them. I have a few announcements for you before we begin. First up, I, Paranorm Girl, will be hosting the show's first ever live stream for our Halloween special this year. I promised you a date and time in our last episode, and here is that information. Sunday, October 29th, we will begin our Halloween celebration at 5 p.m. Pacific. I have arranged for some very special guests to join us for our celebration. Let's keep them a mystery for the time being. Feed the suspense a little bit, but you're going to love them as much as I already do. Probably as much as you already do. I don't know what you do with your spare time. There will also be a few friendly paranormal-based contests over the course of the show, the winners of which will win their very own Paranorm Girl tea. May the best ghoul or goblin win. And of course, what is a Halloween celebration without true spooky tales? This is where you guys will shine. Submit your personal encounter with the paranormal or otherwise unexplainable, nay, the inexplicable, to paranormgirlpod@gmail.com. That's it. Easy enough. And you will get it featured on this year's Halloween special. I will read your story during the live stream with full makeup and costume. That alone is more than worth the price of the tickets. Oh, how much are the tickets, you ask? Nothing. They don't cost anything because we will be streaming on YouTube. So if you have not yet subscribed to the YouTube, do so before the 29th and click the notification button and get notified. Sunday, October 29th, 5 p.m. Pacific. Be there or be square, y'all. Next, quick announcement. Clem Dalloway hosts Ghost Tales by the Fireside. If you particularly love ghost stories, this is a show you need to immediately add to your downloads list. I have been listening for some time now. I met Clem a while back. I do not miss an episode. He's an incredible storyteller, and it just hits the spot. You know what I mean? I know my listeners will dig it too. He is going to have some extra stories for you over on his page every week for the whole month of October. I will not miss it. Neither should you. I will link his Apple and Spotify for you to easily access below. Finally, a word from our sponsors, darlings. The Paranorm Girl podcast is sponsored by Manscaped. Ladies, autumn is here. And if you haven't already told the man in your life, it's Fresh Face Fall. And nobody else can give his face the love it needs other than our friends at Manscaped. The folks who changed below his belt are here to help with their brand new Handyman electric face shaver. Designed to give his face that smooth finish without the mess of a wet shave, it's the perfect tool for men with all beard lengths. Whether he's lining up his neckline or taking it all the way off to feel that autumn breeze, make sure he joins the 9 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Head over to manscaped.com and use code PNG for 20% off and free shipping. Don't be a bad apple this year. Choose Manscaped. You know, Bigfoot is not the only cryptid who could use a little grooming love. In the world of cryptozoology, there's some mighty hairy creatures out there. While they're out there, rustling about in the bushes, waiting for their next blurry photo op for the papers. They might appreciate being able to whip out their handyman electric face shaver and remove up to 3 days' growth without the mess of a wet shave. Or the handyman's skin-safe technology, helping them to reduce unnecessary nicks and cuts. Or its compact design that makes it oh so easy for travel. So, whether it's for a hairy monster on the go or your partner who is just looking like one, the handyman is the perfect tool to easily feel confident, refreshed, and ready to tackle whatever the day may bring. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code PNG at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com and use code PNG. It's time to hit the refresh button with the handyman. My guest is the host of the Fedora Files, a cornucopia of eclectic entertainment featuring fascinating guests and mysterious tales from around the globe. He is also a cryptozoologist who has authored a series of books titled Happy Little Monsters. These books are sure to inspire the reader to delve deeper into the mystery of the cryptid world and alight their own curiosity to seek out even more of the legends and lore of the various monsters long said to roam this earth. He also has a pretty good sense of humor about the subject, which I wholeheartedly appreciate. Please enjoy my conversation with Gregory Fedora.
Okay, well, I'm 50. That's one thing. I'm 50. I've been fascinated with like stories, mythology, monsters, probably all my life. I've written from the time I was when I first learned how to write. I started writing stories and reading mythology, and I was always fascinated because in my mind, I was like, where did they come up with these things? And then I started processing it as I got older. I was like, well, they must have experienced something and didn't know what and so they may have seen these things or saw something and they couldn't understand it. And then about when I was in 8th grade, I read a book on Bigfoot and I was fascinated by Bigfoot. That was so cool to me. And then Loch Ness. So that's always, I think that's everybody's first intro into these monsters, like these cryptid, these mysterious beings, is Bigfoot and Loch Ness, because they have the best PR. And I don't know who they hire, but
Yeah,
they're everywhere. They
great
are everywhere.
publicists.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like Loch Ness goes away for a few months and then he's back again, or she is, Nessie, I guess. And like they're looking for her again. And like Bigfoot, there's so many shows about him. Everybody's trying to find him. And like he doesn't want to be found. They won't leave him alone. But everyone, I think that's what grabs you, is those guys. And then as I started doing, I was like, I wonder if there's others. And then, as I was going through high school and college, I was just reading. The internet really wasn't as big at that point because it really didn't, like the whole internet thing and Google and all that and Alta Vista, that's how old I am. Like those weren't around, and so you had to actually go to the library and you had
Yeah.
to find books, and people weren't really writing books on these other creatures. There is the main two. And as I was finding these and like little tidbits here and there, and then just like lore. I grew up in Ohio, so we had like the Grass Man, and we had like the Loveland Frogs, and we had Octoman, and we had these different beings but they weren't that big a deal at that time. And Mothman, obviously,
Mhm.
and which I won't go on a tangent about the Mothman prophecy movie because that was so upsetting to me. It was like I was
Oh,
really excited about it, and then it was like, but that's not what happened.
what
I was
happened?
like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but they tried. But so I knew those because that's the area I was living in. So I knew those stories, but there's no real books about it, like tangible, like that were detailed. And
Right.
but so then as I got older, then that kind of went to the wayside. I got into, I was working and I got married, I had kids, and really it wasn't till the pandemic, and which is funny, I
Mhm.
was just telling the stories to my kids. And my son is in college now, and he kind of was one of the ones who was like, Dad, you should be doing videos about videos because like he goes, you make it so entertaining. Like he goes,
Yeah.
you make it fun, you make it like he goes, you make it believable, but you make it funny, and you like you don't get too serious with it. Like, and his thing was like when he watched these different shows a bit like they took it so seriously. He goes, but it's a fun thing, but it's so serious that like you can't joke about it. But I would be joking, making jokes about all the different creatures, but still telling the story behind
Hmm.
it. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'll start doing that. So I started doing videos on Facebook about it. And then my buddy Seth, who I've worked with on and off on different projects, uh, he came to me. He's like, dude, you should do a podcast. And I was just like, well, about what? He goes, well, just interview people. I go, yeah, but I don't know if I want to interview cryptid, like cryptozoologists and those guys, because I think they
Hmm.
may get mad at me because I do make jokes and I make jokes about all the monsters. I like even in the books, I say little sarcastic things about
Yeah, yeah.
but that's just my personality. And I was like, I feel like if I did it, they would be kind of upset and they like be like, oh, you're being, because I wasn't sure because I hadn't, done it. But then I met this Sarah Cooper. She's the Snallygaster Museum, uh, and she and I did one, and she was like, just told me she goes, you need to start coming to events because I kind of shied away from that because I was worried because of who I am. I just didn't know how they would take me because me coming in with my books and then being goofy and funny. And I even have a Snallygaster puppet, which is not with me right now, but I would have him. Like I've done some videos with him where he like
Yeah.
tells dad jokes, but I took him to a like couple events and he was kind of like that Triumph the insult dog, where he would go around talking to people and be insulting. I haven't like put any videos up of that yet. I plan to, but like him just talking to other cryptid people about,
Hmm.
basically upset how Bigfoot gets all the PR and like he's like, come on, I have tentacles, and so, but uh, so that's kind of how it's evolved. It started with Bigfoot, and then as I started reading more, I was like, man, people need to know about these other things, whether they
Yeah.
were cryptids or even mythological creatures that everyone knows like the main mythological creature, but there's all these others, and obviously something was seen or done that they saw these, like, and even like the Bible has them in them, and people are shocked by that. Like Leviathan and Behemoth are probably two of the oldest written about monsters,
Hmm.
and they're basically dinosaur. They describe like a dinosaur type thing, and they're both in the Bible, and so that blows people who go to church their minds are what, and it's like no, and then people are like, oh, they meant like alligator and hippopotamus. The only problem is that in the same area they talk about the hippopotamus and the alligator,
Right, right.
and so
Yeah.
it's like, well, they knew what those were. This is not describing either one of those. And it's like, so try again. So I don't know.
Okay. Well,
So
when in all of that would you say you actually started being a cryptozoologist? Like
um
that's such a very specific,
I
refined
would,
kind of part of the field, you know?
yeah, like I guess like really researching it would
Yeah.
have been about within the past 10 years. Like I was always interested, always looking at, but like seriously, like where I decided I really need to look into something. And I think it was what really did is when I moved, like I was from Ohio, I lived down in Florida for a while, and then we moved up here to Maryland, and uh, we moved to a place right by South Mountain, which is in Maryland is kind of a big deal. It's like
Hmm.
there's so many folklore about that mountain, and I'd lived there I think a couple of years, and I didn't know the stories behind it. Like if people want to hear about it, like South Mountain has there's a guy named Michael Zittel, and he's considered the Wizard of South Mountain. Supposedly did all this hexes and spells, and he was a healer and all this, hated by a lot of people, but also loved by a lot of people. So
Hmm.
it's like depend where, like if you get, you don't know where to fall with him. I kind of think he was probably a good guy, and he just got a bad rap, just from what I've read. There's also the Snallygaster, which is the oldest, and the people of New Jersey don't like this, but he's the oldest monster in the United States. He beats the Jersey Devil by 5 years.
Oh.
And like stories of the Snallygaster came out before the Jersey Devil.
Hmm.
Then the thing, here's the next thing that's cool. There's the Dwayyo, also lives on South Mountain, which is kind of a dog man. Before there was Dog Man, there was the Dwayyo. He's also the Hex Wolf is another name. But the cool thing is, which is I've yet to find it, and I'm still looking. So the Snallygaster and Dwayyo hated each other and were territorial, and they fought like Godzilla and King Kong. And so I think they're the only cryptids I know of that had mortal enemies. Like they were hated each other. Like I can't find anywhere else. There's no like stories of Bigfoot and Loch Ness fighting or anything
Yeah.
like that. But these two fought, and there's like records in newspapers about stories of it back in the 1800s. It's ridiculous.
Oh
And then
man.
then there's also the Snarly Yow, which is basically a black dog, ghost dog or whatever, and they're all on South Mountain. So there's these four things on this one mountain, and from my home, you look out my back window, you can see South Mountain. And I'd lived there a couple of years until I found out about this. And that's really what hit me. I was like, dude, I got to find out about this mountain. Because even there's like one book that I knew of, and it was South Mountain Magic by Madeline Dahlgren, which
Hmm.
she wrote in the late 1800s. And she had some of the stories, but I was like, I got to find out more. So I started really delving into the research. And I think that's what really got me going and started researching all these different creatures and like the stories behind them and who saw what when. And the ones that fascinated me the most are the ones where like people have no reason to tell this story.
Hmm.
Like the Murphy Burrow mud monster. One of the parts of that is, which I to me is fascinating, is it happened in the 70s, I guess. I think it's late 60s, early 70s. Uh, but the first two people who saw it were a couple, but this couple were married to other people and were having a little rendezvous, saw this monster, went to the cops, and told them everything. This but led them both to getting divorced. Now, like in the early 70s, would you risk your marriage to tell cops about a monster? Like,
Right.
like,
Right.
why would you do that? Like, that's like, I mean, I'm just thinking, it's like, of all the things to end a marriage, yeah, well, they were making out in a park, saw a monster. I'm out. It's like, so my mind was like something they saw something enough to scare
Right.
them enough to ruin their marriages. I mean they're already ruining their marriages, but they took it to that next level. It's like they admitted it so to the cops, and so they were in a no-win situation at that point. But so like
Oh,
stories like that really draw me into like, okay, something happened. So
yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah.
there's no reason to make that up.
Yeah, well,
So
yeah, obviously they saw something. Mistake or no, they did see
yeah,
something. Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
Okay, so before we get too far in this, I'm so
Okay,
excited to have you just like tell us all
I
about
I,
all of
I
them. I
can
know we can't
verbally
go through all of.
vomit
No, no, no.
and just
I like that. But before we get too far, just for any of my audience who isn't as familiar with the concept of cryptozoology, this
yeah.
was one of my favorite episodes of yours, actually. I was just like
Hmm.
enthralled because you were able to just go through all of these aspects of it and really paint this picture of what it is. So, for my audience's benefit, would you just give us a brief synopsis of what is cryptozoology? When did it start? Why did it start? Yada, yada, yada.
Well, now I got to remember all the dates. Okay, I'm not going to remember the dates. But anyway,
That's
so
okay.
basically, cryptozoology is the study of kind of unknown animals.
Mhm.
And it's the idea it's either to prove or disprove their existence. And what the terminology hasn't been around, but in reality, cryptozoology has been around for a long time. Uh, it's not something that's just recently happened. I think the gosh, I'm going to feel bad because you can research it. There was a man, the guy who's considered the father of veterinarianism. I think that's what it is. He did all these drawings back in, I think it was the 1500s, of the anatomy of animals,
Hmm.
and they're very accurate. And he also happened to do weird drawings of like dinosaurs and things that he should not have been able to see. I'll have to send you his name because I can't remember his name, but it's like it went away. But it was fascinating to me because like I was like, what? And then some of his drawings, when they found like fossilized skin and stuff, was
Hmm.
accurate to what he drew. So he had drawn these kind of like skin things and different things, and people kind of let it go, but like they accepted this part, but not this part. And
Hmm.
then so he was kind of like a cryptozoologist, but basically a cryptozoologist, like I said, they look for animals like such as like the panda bear. was considered a fable. No one outside of the West or out of China had ever like seen or heard of it. And then suddenly they found it, and
Right.
oh my gosh, it's real. And the same thing kind of happened with the silverback gorilla. It was
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. No one believed that was real, and so the guys who were studying it, trying to like, they technically would have been cryptozoologists. They didn't have that name on them yet because I said that terminology wasn't till like I think the 1950 40s or 50s. I can't remember the guy's name. It began with an H. Should know this, but
But Bernard Heuvelmans.
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
that's it.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's the one that really took created terminology, and it
Mm-hmm.
mean and crypto is basically like secret or hidden, and zoology is animals, so it's hidden animals, and it's
Okay.
animals, and they're still finding today. Like even this year, in France, there was an island off of France, and there was this type of cat, and I know this sounds stupid, but these farmers had talked about this cat for hundreds of years. Science said it didn't exist, wasn't there. Now there's no such thing, but they talked about it. It was very predatory. And about 5 years ago, they caught one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they then did all the DNA testing, and they now just this past year said this has been confirmed. This is the cat they're talking about, and it was an unknown line of feline. So there was a small island off the coast of France that has been talking about this thing for 100 years. And just now in 2023, they've confirmed this thing existed. Yes, it doesn't have like three heads or anything, but still, it was a hit. It's basically a cryptid. It was
Yeah, yeah.
for the
It's
longest time.
science.
Yeah,
Science said that it did not exist
exist.
because, yeah, until
It
it
was
did.
impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like
Mm-hmm.
it was impossible. It couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
It couldn't.
Yeah.
That was their thing. It's the island's not big enough. Blah blah blah. The food source, and the farmers like it's killing our chickens and our other things, and they're like, oh
Mm-hmm.
no, there's no way. And it's like, boom, up, yep, it is. It's there. And so like things like that are happening, and there are places around the world that like we still haven't explored,
Mm-hmm.
like in like different parts, even in America. There are like I know people like can't think outside of their like geographical area, but if you just take an air flight from New York to you know LA and
Mm-hmm.
you look out, there are miles and miles and miles of places where there are no people, and you're just like even in the United States, and there's tons of land for things to be there,
Oh
whether
yeah.
you want to believe it or not. Like, and if you go up north, like into Alaska, Canada, there's tons of areas. Like I know people can't get past like their town, but like if I just go to the Appalachian Trail within like 30 minutes, I won't see a human being.
Yeah.
And it's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just in the woods surrounded by things making noise. I don't know what it is. I mean, I've never seen a Bigfoot, but he could be following me around. I have no idea.
Sure.
So
Sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and and if they live there as long as they've said they have, they know how to avoid you and they know how to be
Right.
quiet. It's not like they're dumb. You know, even like a dog and a cat knows how to stalk to
Mm-hmm.
the point you don't hear it. So you don't think this thing that's lived in the woods can know how to avoid you and how to be quiet when it needs to. It's not like an idiot, just like, oh, a tree, bang. It's like it's like it knows what it's doing. It's like, come on, it more than likely it is stalking you and you're not the one stalking it. It's probably like, okay, I see you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. You got to think if it's this apex predator,
Yeah.
that's
And
been
it would
doing this
have to
for
be.
thousands of years. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's got the ability to do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
It knows what it's doing. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just think the possibilities are endless. And this might have been the same guy you were talking about before. I can't remember his name, who I'm talking about, but there was a guy back in the 1800. No, it wouldn't have been him because this was in the 1800s. Was like he was like there are no more four-legged animals, large animals to be
oh, yeah,
discovered
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
ever again. We are
Yeah.
all done
Yeah.
discovering, and then yeah, of course, like you
See,
said, we're discovering them all the time. So
yeah, well, there was the same guy in the 1800s. It may not be the same guy, but there was another guy who said there is no such thing as a giant squid.
oh
And
yeah.
then it was literally 10 years after he said that they caught it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he never like replied to it. And he was just like, all right,
Yeah.
yeah,
He's like BRB, and then nobody
yeah,
saw him
yeah,
ever again.
yeah, yeah.
Well, so you along with cryptids, you kind of border on some paranormal topics as
Hmm.
well. You know, you got a
Yeah.
couple like series on your website at least, like you talk about ghosts and goblins,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and in one of the other series, this is not the book, but like a little video series called Happy Little Monsters. They're
Hmm.
short, just like 1 minute clips, 1 minute and
Yeah.
under, just bite size, but huge lessons because each
Hmm.
one you spend talking about a different creature or entity
Yeah.
or concept. And you introduced me to something brand new. I'd never heard it before, and it freaked me out. Will you tell
Oh,
us about
which one?
the hide behind?
Oh, the hide behind. Oh, I love that
Mm.
one. That is actually now when I first heard about the hide behind, and this is funny, it was my friend's son, and his name's Tucker. I won't tell you the last name because I don't want people stalking him. No, he's a great kid. Uh, that's his favorite monster, and he was asking me about it, and I had not heard about it, and he had heard about from some book in Harry Potter book,
Hmm.
which that's I've not read any. Sorry, people, I just haven't read the Harry Potter series. I've seen the movies, but like it's in one of the books, and I was like, so in my mind, I was like, oh, it's probably just made up by
Right, right.
Raleigh or whatever. I was like,
Sure.
oh, and but I was like, oh, and he's like, oh, can you find out about it? I was like, okay, I'll look it up. And then I started looking it up, and I was like, whoa, this is an actual something other than from Harry Potter. It's considered one of the fearsome critters, which is there was this. I think there's about 13 or 14 of them, which were based around what like the lumberjacks would talk about seeing in the woods.
Hmm.
And supposedly the hide behind is this one where uh, if you actually saw it, you didn't live to tell that you saw it because it would constantly be coming behind you, and it is supposedly very tall, but could blend in with the trees, and it would slowly stalk up on you, and then like just destroy you when it got you, like just eviscerate you, and you were like, and then they'd find a dead body, and they'd be like, oh, the hide behind got Johnny. Well, it couldn't be anything else. Had to be the hide behind. But the best part about the hide behind, and this is my favorite part, is they said that the thing that could keep like the best way to keep the hide behind away from you was whiskey. And so the lumberjacks would carry a flask of whiskey with them. And so then they could tell their wives, I gotta take the whiskey with me or the hide behind will kill me. And do you want the hide behind get killed? No. Okay, then I need my whiskey. So it was kind of to me, I was like, that's really ingenious at the time, but it's
Yeah.
kind of funny. Like, but it's like this, like the descriptions of it range all over the place. They all are very tall. I know it's always tall. It has some animalistic features, which I thought was funny that they always said if you saw it, you died, but then they did have a description.
Hmm.
So,
So
but
obviously
they
somebody escaped the hide
somebody
behind. I
saw
don't
it.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody saw it. Probably
Yeah.
saw their buddy get killed, and it's like, well, it had this like wolf head, and it's like 30 feet tall, and I was like, but
Wow.
so it is a really cool story. I love stories like that too, where they have a way to keep it away from you, and it's
Yeah.
usually involves alcohol, and it's like especially with the well, no, actually, it's not true because they do have another one where it's the opposite. If you do drink a lot of alcohol, this thing likes it and it comes after you because you've marinated yourself.
Oh, okay.
And
So
so
so more of a
basically,
cautionary
yeah,
tale
yeah.
cryptid.
So
Yeah.
I think the wives made that one,
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, this one will destroy you if you drink too much whiskey. So
Yeah.
you had to be balanced. You could only have a little bit. So I guess depending on where you were in the world, like, okay, here you can drink it. Okay, you're here. This is where this one lives, so don't bring your whiskey.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So yeah, that I don't know why that creeped me out so much. It
well,
was
I think it's
it
it's the idea that it slowly starts because it's not
yeah.
fast. It
Hmm.
slowly creeps up on you, and you would
Hmm.
hear something, and you turn and look, it's not there,
Yeah.
and you see nothing, and then suddenly it's like right on top of you. And
Yeah.
and I'm surprised no one's made a movie about it because I think it would be like super scary. Like if done right, they could do.
Absolutely. Oh,
They
that would be a
they've done.
great movie.
Yeah, like it could be almost like the Blair Witch style, where some guys go
Hmm.
out to prove the hide behind is, not real, and then slowly one by one, because you could do it in a way where you never see it. Because I think those are
Yeah.
always the scariest films where you
Oh, me
never
too.
see.
Hmm.
You just know what happens. They could even have the camera go like wow and like get destroyed, and then come down and you just see the guy like blood going, and he's like laying there, and you have no idea what just happened. Maybe I'll make it. I don't know. I don't know.
It was the
Now it's
hide
in my head.
behind. You should
Yeah.
make it.
I'm
Absolutely.
shoot,
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll
I'll
see.
I'll
Just
back
something
you.
else to do.
Just add one more thing onto the pile of your already busy, busy life. Well, as one is going through all of the videos and the audio, the podcast, and listening to you tell these stories, it is quite obvious how passionate you are about this topic.
Mm-hmm.
You just breathe a lot of life into it, and it's just so much fun to watch and listen to. And something I was curious about going through it was I was wondering, where do you actually stand in regards to belief for some of these things?
Well, I believe that all of them are based on something. Like I said, like I think somebody experienced something, and especially like these old stories. I think there was something. Uh, I think there are things out there that we still have not discussed. I think there are like Bigfoot type things. I don't know where. I don't know what they're like. I don't know how they exist or how they're able to get around. But there's evidence of something.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, I think it's just, folklore that they've had for centuries, and maybe there was something one time. I recently did one, not to pump myself too much, but I did one on a thing called the Wolvere.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was reading about it, and it's basically, if people don't know, it's a wolfman creature, but it's not a werewolf. He was never human and then werewolf. But he was good natured, and he would bring food to people who needed it. And he was not known to be aggressive in any way. And it was in Scotland. And the more I read about it, I started thinking, I was like, I wonder if, and he existed, and they was talked about in like the 1400s or whatever. I think that's when he was really popular. And I thought about that disease where people get, where they have hair everywhere. You had like the dog boy and stuff, where they look
Right.
almost animal like. And I thought, I wonder if that's what he was. And he
Yeah.
was kind of like an outcast. His family probably was like, oh my gosh, and got rid of him because they didn't know what was going on with him. And back in that day, I mean, yeah, I mean, they had their superstitions, probably thought he was cursed, but he probably had a good heart, and he just saw people needed help, and he would go do this. And he was like, became like this folklore thing of this dog man that was nice.
Sure.
So I think there are things. Um, and such as Loch Ness, I think there was something one time. I don't think there is anymore. I think because just for me personally, I think they've searched that lake so many times, and or loch. Don't call it a lake; they get
Yeah.
mad.
Yeah.
But
Careful.
they've searched that loch so many
Mm-hmm.
times
Mm-hmm.
that they should have found it by now. And I
Yeah.
don't think, like, especially they've done some where it's like full passes at something. And I know they said they saw a big thing, but I think at this point, I think they can get out of the loch and into the ocean. I think there's ways. I know some of them. I don't know about Loch Ness, but I know others, and I know other lochs supposedly had monsters as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think at one point there was something, and they
Mm-hmm.
went away. I mean, you got the story of like Saint George and the Dragon. I think he did kill or fought something. I don't think they would make that up, and just to become a saint. I don't know. Maybe they would. I don't. But I
Okay.
think there are things out there. But I said there are some that I just think are either over exaggerations.
Mm-hmm.
They may not be as big as people say they were. I think uh, I'm one of these that I believe that there probably are still dinosaurs on the planet in certain areas. I just, because I'm just like, I don't think they'd all die out. I just don't. I think, and if you do study on reptiles, like the the bigger in kind of area they're in, the bigger they'll get. So
Mm-hmm.
like if you have them a certain, they grow bigger, and if it's the right humidity, right heat, they can get really big.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but if it's, and I think because the earth changes, cools, hot, cools in it. And we know that back when they were around, like the world was pretty much like a giant greenhouse, because they find like palm trees in Antarctica, like fossilized stuff, and they talk about it. So at
Mm-hmm.
one point, this earth was this giant, you know, encased super hot thing. So these things just grew humongous, and now
Right.
it's down. Like they probably are, like you said, the Congo has barely been, you know, like explored as well as Amazon. So they're probably not ginormous now. Now they're probably like the size of a horse, which would
Mhm.
be easier to hide in that area, but they're still there.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, you reminded me.
So
I read a book recently. It was really intriguing, and now I'm gonna butcher the name of this creature, but it was looked like a plesiosaur. Is
plesiosaur.
it
Yeah, you're
plesiosaur?
right. Yeah.
Plesiosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah, but kind of like little
Yeah.
smaller than you would expect, but like a group of them that were just in the most remotest like area of the Amazon, and
Yeah.
it, like it would take you many miles to get in there, and that's why they hadn't been discovered. But because they were like underwater creatures or something, he made a really good
Yeah.
case as to these reports of these creatures and how they could actually still be there today. And I
Yeah.
just thought that was really, yeah, interesting. So perhaps you are right, but
Yeah.
a
Well,
grain of
they well,
truth.
well, the other thing that's interesting is like I had a guest on just recently, and
Hmm.
he's going to be on my podcast in a week or so. But like, why I interviewed him, but that he talked about the plesiosaur that people were talking about being in rivers in the
Hmm.
Amazon stuff, but there was this argument for the longest time. Well, they were seawater animals.
Hmm.
Well, they now found fossilized proof that there was a freshwater variety. And
Oh,
so that actually did live in rivers.
huh.
And they were smaller than the big ones in the oceans. And so they're like, it was the same kind of creature, but it was a smaller version. It lived in fresh water. And so then it changes a lot of so in science just recently came out and he was talking about how people talk about these things being in the Amazon River, these different areas deep in
Hmm.
there. And be
Hmm.
like, oh, there's no way they're saltwater animals or they were way bigger. It's like, well, now
Right.
they know, wait, no, there was a smaller version that was a freshwater version. So,
Yeah, yeah. And
so
the locals have been telling these
mm-hmm.
stories for a
For
while
years.
here, so
And again, what do they have to
yeah,
gain? They're
right.
not starting resorts to get you to come see them. They want you to not come.
Right. Yeah.
Usually
Exactly.
locals are like, stay away. But we've seen this. No. So
All right. All right. Well, with that, I would love to spend some time talking about your awesome books. So I
yes.
got me a copy. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I'll hold them up for the YouTube audience here. Happy Little
Yeah.
Monsters, Volume 1 and 2. These
Yeah.
are just listeners, they're just so well done. Hardcover, the artwork is kind of cool. It's just put together so well. Who did the artwork?
Me.
You did?
Yeah,
Oh wow.
I did everything. Yeah. So yeah, I got my copies too.
Oh yes,
Yay. Yeah. And
yay.
then I
And
just number 3 just came out.
yeah,
And
okay.
the reason 3 took so time is like people kept asking me about certain creatures that I hadn't done yet. And one particular was Braxy from West Virginia. And
Oh yeah, okay,
yeah,
okay.
Braxy,
Mm-hmm.
the Flatwood Monster.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do it, but I'm one of these like I just didn't like how it was turning out, so I didn't have it in 1, I didn't have it in 2, and then finally I got it to look how it was described because that's my thing is I try and get them to look how they're described,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, I do all the artwork, I do everything on them just because I'm just like that. Like I've in other projects I've worked with other people, and I'm just one of these let's go, and then like some people don't keep up with me, and then so I've learned to do it all myself and then yeah so
Oh,
I do all
I
the
mean,
research, all the writing, I lay it out and then do all the artwork in it and
that
do
is
all that. That's yeah.
quite the undertaking.
Yeah.
Kudos, man. Well, something that I did appreciate, and yes, I've heard of Flatwoods Monster. Absolutely, a lot
Yeah.
of people have. But one thing I
Yeah.
really appreciated about these first 2 volumes
Hmm.
were the amount of cryptids and creatures that I had never heard of before.
Oh,
I did
cool.
know they could have, they existed, that these stories existed, these origin stories. So I went ahead and compiled a little list of a
Oh
couple
no.
because I thought it would be fun for my audience. If I hadn't heard of them, they possibly haven't heard of them. And
Sure.
these were some of the odder concoctions that I
Yes.
came across. So I'll give you a name, and
Yes, I
you
might
tell
have to look
us.
at the picture to remember but
Oh,
go ahead.
I can pull it up too here.
All right.
Okay, so this one was really interesting. The Afunk. The Afunk.
The funk that's in book 1, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Is
Yeah,
that
that's a very, yeah. Let me just look at him again.
sure,
Oh
sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's in that's a Welsh folklore thing,
Hmm.
and it's like this beast that it's huge, and it lived in a lake there in Wales, and it is like the mix of a badger, a beaver, and like a rat, and it's like just ginormous. It like think of like a beaver the size of like bigger than a cow,
Hmm.
and but it also has like sharp teeth, like the face, nose, and stuff like of a rat, and like, and it's kind of not, it's not friendly, and like from what the stories are, like it, if you see it, you don't want to go near it. But it lived in this lake, um, and the the locals talked about for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it was one of these like you just didn't go near, and to this day they still talk about it as though it's there. It's not a big lake though, but it is deep. It's like, well, all
Hmm.
those lakes in England and Scotland, I think because of like the ice ages. I mean, they're not big this way, but they're like they go really deep, and there's caverns underneath them.
Yeah.
So like all of them have these areas where whatever's in them could escape and hide. And but yeah, the Afonk is a that was a cool one. Like that's one of those that I just stumbled across, and I was like, I can't remember, and I just thought it was that was the first one I tried to draw and do, and like I do it in Photoshop, and I was like I'm gonna try and make this, and then that's really, I think that's really what spawned me to decide to do the books. Like I
Yeah. Yeah.
started doing that one, and the Snallygaster were the two that
Hmm.
made me like, because I was like, these look, I want to try and make these. How can, and it was just me wanting to try and see if I could make it look like, because I've seen drawing, like I don't want to put down other people's books, but a lot of times when I would get a cryptid book or a book on cryptozoology, it would just be a lot of writing,
Hmm.
and there'd be very few drawings, very few artwork. And I'm just one that I'm very visual.
Hmm.
And so when I get to a book, I just want to be like, I want to see stuff. And so when I started doing it, I was like, I want it, like, I didn't want to write a ton because also part of it is I was like, I want you to go research it yourself and
Hmm.
find out more. Like, so here's a basic snippet of what this is. This is what they say it looked like. This is where it's located. Go at it. Have fun. Start researching yourself. Don't let me spoon feed. You know, but just to me, it was to have fun and to realize how cool these things are. These like the way they
Yeah.
were described, and like that was just a weird, like I can here, I'll pull it up so people can see it.
Okay.
And
That is
I don't
so
mind it.
so cool. Just
Yeah,
that
that
you're
this
able
is
to, yeah,
that's the
take a look at
funk.
that. Anybody on
And then
YouTube? It's just crazy looking. It's like a
yeah,
crocodile
crocodile,
beaver
beaver,
thing, rat
rat
thing.
thing. Yeah, it's got a lot going on. And then
I
I made a
certainly
little
wouldn't want to run into it.
postcard,
Yeah.
and that's the actual lake it's supposedly found in. And I found a
Mhm.
picture of the lake, and I kind of made it look like he's still there chilling out. And I'm not even going to try and attempt to say the name of the lake because it's actually named after him. Like it's, I don't remember how it's, yeah, I think it's Lignor Afonk or something like that. And Lanyar, it's like old Welsh, and it basically means the home of the Afonk, is what
But
it translates to.
I wouldn't have tried to pronounce it either. I think
Yeah,
that's right. I think you're right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That is exactly what it is.
Yeah, yes.
And
All
modern
right.
day Welsh people don't know how to pronounce their own stuff,
Yeah.
so just come to me.
All right. Well, let's just do let's do two more.
All right,
I
sure.
had a long list. I'm so sorry, but
Well, you can
let's
do
do
more.
two
I
more.
don't care.
Well, because we're going to get into one more after this that I did
Oh,
not.
oh,
I don't know if
oh,
you're
okay.
expecting it or not. So,
I'm not.
this one I love the name. I love the names of some of these guys. It's a Weso Wahuhi. Weso
Oh, the owl
Wahuhi.
cat.
Yeah,
The owl cat
yeah.
of North Carolina. I don't even have to look that one up.
Okay.
Now, that one's a really interesting, and I found out about is through a podcast. I had this guy, Jason Tapp, and he does a show called Spooky Charlotte, and he he does a lot of ghost stuff, and that's more his thing. And he's going to be on my show again because we're planning. Like he's just a lot of fun to talk to about ghost stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and uh, he asked me, had I ever heard of this? And I hadn't. And so I went and I found some podcasts where some people briefly mentioned it. And then I just started doing some research and trying to figure out, because some people had recently said they had spotted this thing. They thought it was a cat walking around on four legs, and then it took off with wings. And it was like a weird, and they're like, was that an owl? And like they were confused because they swore it had a tail and it was walking like a cat, and then it just took off. And so I was like doing the research of that area,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I kind of gave it that name just because that's the Indian term for owl cat. So
Oh,
it's two
okay.
different it's the two different words. So it's owl cat, but it's the Indian term for that. But they, in their mythology and in their stories, they talk about a guardian spirit in that area,
Mm-hmm.
which was part owl, part cat, and they actually they believed in this thing, and I thought it was interesting because there's not a lot written on it, and I'm hoping there's going to be more people spotting it. So far, I've found four people who have claimed to seen this. And I found it through listening to other podcasts. They talk about seeing this thing, but no one has really done a lot of research on it. But I wanted to put it in there because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
like this is kind of a fairly new one
Mm.
where people are just now saying it, but it actually does have history in the area. And so I thought that was cool because, like I said, the Native Americans were like all about it. And then now uh, now people are seeing it in the area, and they have no idea what it is or why. But the description they have it are similar to like the drawings that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Native Americans did, and they respected this spirit. So what it is, I don't know, but it is an interesting thing.
Huh.
Like,
Same,
yeah,
same with Bigfoot.
yeah,
These the drawings of old and the
yeah,
legends. The thing they're
exactly.
seeing today is eerily similar to it.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'll ask one more off of the odd concoctions list, and then we'll end on it's a personal ask of mine, one that I heard
All right.
on your I think it was the Monster Monday series.
Oh,
So
okay. Yes.
all right, so this last odd one, another awesome name, a Wolpertinger. Wolpertinger. It's a rabbit squirrel.
Oh yeah, that's in Europe.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
European thing, and it's like the jackalope on steroids. And it's got horn, it's got like antlers, it's got wings, it's part
Mm-hmm.
rabbit, part
Mm-hmm.
squirrel. It's and it's like an old creature from like Europe, and uh it looks cute. As far as I know, it wasn't aggressive of any kind. It was just is one of those where they talked about like where you came across the saying. Some stories where it was a good omen, some it was a bad omen. So you never knew, which is kind of sad. So you didn't know, should I be happy about seeing this or sad? And so there's some more stories about that I didn't have in my book. I know that right before one of the battles, big major battle, some knight saw the Whoppertinger, and then he went on to win. And so but then another one, man saw the Whoppertinger, and then his mother died. And so it's like,
Oh,
it's a bringer of omens, but you just don't know. I don't know if there's I'd like to do more research on that to find out, was there like a color coding of some kind? Like, is like a brown Whoppertinger happy, a white one bad? Like, so it's like, I'd like to know more about that because people didn't go because it just seemed to be like a bringer of omens to come, but you never knew.
mm-hmm.
And so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not helpful if you see it and you're like, okay, I don't know, this is good or bad. And if you're living your life determining what to do by what Whoppertinger shows up, you should probably know which one. It's like, oh, this is the good
Right?
one. I should invest in the Bitcoin because like but or no, don't do it. That's the wrong one. It's going to be a bad thing.
Yeah, you know
If
what?
only, yeah,
Maybe it's just it's easy enough to just understand it. It's a bringer of omens, neither good nor
yeah,
bad.
that,
And
yeah.
yeah, just
It's
accept it
not a
as a
bad thing,
neutral, it's a
Yeah,
neutral
yeah.
party. Yeah.
Just know that it's letting you know something's going to happen,
Yeah.
and just live your life. You know,
That's all you can
yeah,
do, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
It'd
Anyone
make a
listening?
great pet.
Oh gosh, it's just such a strange looking thing.
Oh
Rabbit,
yeah, it was fun.
squirrel, horns,
Or
wings,
wings,
fangs, I
wings.
believe,
Yeah. Oh yeah, it
and
had like little
like
fangs.
chicken
Yeah,
legs. Didn't have chicken
yeah, yeah,
legs.
yeah.
Yeah,
Chicken leg.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like uh,
All right.
let
Well,
me see if I can find it real
yeah,
quick
yeah.
so
All right.
people
No,
can
no, no.
see it because
Find the
it's
picture.
yeah.
But while you're doing that, listeners and viewers on YouTube, I hope that gives
There it
you
is.
just a little taste. Yeah,
There he
isn't that
is.
crazy looking?
Yeah, there he is,
Ah,
Wilbur
yeah.
Cannon.
Just a
Living in the
little
woods
taste.
there. He's just happy. He's happy in
So
the forest.
So these are some of the creatures, monsters, what have you, in the series, at least the first two volumes of Happy Little Monsters by our lovely guests here. So do check it out. There are so many more and a lot more to learn in there. Now, this last one I'm going to ask you about. This is just
Yes.
for my own sake. I like I said, I watched it on the Monster Monday series, and I
Yes.
just loved. Maybe loved isn't the right word. I found the origin story very interesting, and this creature is called the Man Squatch.
Oh, the man squatch.
Yeah,
That is a great one.
it's a great
Uh,
story. You do it very well.
I even did a song about it. I'll
Oh,
have to send you the link to the song.
do
And
I'll
yeah,
add it to the
I
Patreon.
did, yeah, I did a music video about it, and
Oh
I
my
wrote
gosh.
the song, and my kids helped me videotape it.
Mhm.
The story of the man squatch is, and it's ridiculous, and I don't think it's true at all, but it's such a funny story.
Hmm.
Uh, the idea was because you usually hear it the other way around, how this happened. Like usually it's a male Sasquatch carries off a woman, to whatever. It's an animal.
Hmm.
But in this story, it's a male hunter who got drunk and got busy with a female Sasquatch. And a few months later, she birthed a half man, half Sasquatch.
Hmm.
And now this beast is not huge like Bigfoot. He's like, 5 foot something, but he's hairy, got a lot of male characteristics, uh, and he wanders the woods, and he's just out there. He's just having fun. He's living his best life, but
Just
he's
man
part man.
squatchy life.
Yeah,
Hmm.
man squatch, and he's just having the best time. And I thought it was hilarious. I thought the story was funny,
Hmm.
and like I'm 99% sure this is not a true story, and so, but it was so much. It was like I couldn't resist it because it's just one of those funny to me. Is funny, and so then I actually wrote the song about the man squatch, and uh, at one point I was going to do a mockumentary on it, and I had started this whole documentary on it, and I'd never finished it, but it probably is good because I made the man squatch kind of look like Tom Cruise with a lot of hair, and my wife was always like, "You're gonna get so sued if you release this." And so I just haven't done it, but maybe I'll do it, and like maybe he'll be fine with it. I don't know, but but yeah, I was having so much fun with it when I read it. It was one of these that I was just like, this is so ridiculously stupid but funny. I got to do it, and it was something I found and it was like on Reddit or some board. Someone had talked about it,
Hmm.
like asking people had they seen the man squatch, and then he kind of went into the story of it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is too good to like not go for it. And I haven't found anything else more about it. But you hear
Yeah.
about wild men all the time.
Sure, sure.
And
Yeah.
so it's maybe chalk it up as a wild man. But but if you
Very
type
well.
in man squatch, I think there's a band name that now too. And like so I think other people have picked up on the name. So if
Hmm.
you Google man squatch, you can start there's other things out there talking about it. So I was like, okay, so other people heard it and thought it was cool and went with it. And I was just like, I'm going to tell the story of what I heard. So here it is, you know,
It
and
is. It's just
yeah,
great. It's a great
he,
story.
yeah, he hasn't made it into the books yet
Yeah,
because
right, right.
I probably should bring him in to one, maybe in book 4 or 5.
Oh, you gotta. That the
I'll pull him
world
in,
deserves to know about Man
and with the man,
Squatch.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they do. I mean, and he needs more PR. I think his like dad Bigfoot or his uncle Bigfoot, because it can't be his dad,
Oh,
or maybe
oh,
it's his
true.
stepdad. And his
Ooh.
stepdad is like, my wife got busy with one of those hairless dudes, and now I got this kid I have to take care of and feed. Like, he's bitter. That's why he doesn't
Oh.
want to come around. He's like, because he knows what we do. He's like, you guys get drunk and sleep with my wife.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
Bigfoot, that's why he doesn't
That
like us.
that's why he's mad. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why he's always hiding. He's like, honey, we're supposed to hide from them, not sleep with them.
Oh, man, she couldn't resist, you
Yeah,
know.
you probably like, we're not prepared for the turn this just took.
Oh man. All right, Mr. Fedora.
Yes.
Uh we this has been so much fun. We are
Oh, it's been a blast.
near the end. It is time for our final questions, final thoughts.
Okay, let's go.
And I've got some special things ready for you.
This
So
this is like lightning round.
this is yeah, yeah. Well, take your time if you want to answer,
Okay, all
fuller,
right,
but yeah, generally it's a little quicker.
all right.
So
Okay,
first question, designed specifically for you.
okay.
The Dwayyo and Snallygaster, bitter,
Yes,
mortal enemies,
yes,
are in a fight to the death. Who
yes.
wins? Please explain your answer.
Okay, they seriously, who would win? It would be the Snallygaster, and the reason is
Mhm.
that he's bigger. He also flies, so I think the Snallygaster would easily just grab the Dwayyo, and even if he's hurt, could take him about 200-300 feet and just drop him.
Mm,
So I mean, the Dwayle's a cool dude and fighter. He's in it to win it. He doesn't have it. Like, there's no way he
sure.
could. I think in the end, Snagaster, like, if he has to, is just gonna fly way up, drop him, and then splat. You know.
Very, very well thought out, very well
Yeah,
put.
I have thought
I
about that probably more than I should have.
I thought you might have, yes. All right. Second question for you. Would you please tell us a cryptid dad joke?
A cryptid dad joke. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Be all right. Why are Bigfoot's glutes so good?
Glued so good?
Or butt, butt. Is that glutes or your
Oh,
glutes?
glutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Why are Bigfoot's glutes so good? I don't know.
Because he does Sasquatches or Sas. Is that right? Yeah, yeah. Uh, squatses,
Squats.
Sasquatches. There we go. I couldn't even
Okay.
do it right.
No, I
Bigfoot
put you
has
on
good
this.
glutes because he does Sasquatches. It's hard to say.
It's a hard word. Yeah,
Yeah,
tongue
too
tie.
many S's.
I put you on the spot, but
No, but that's fine.
you did deliver. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
That was very dad jokey. All right. Final one for you.
Yes.
It is October. It is spooky season.
Yes.
The veil between the world of the living and the dead is about to be very thin. Would you
Yes.
please tell us a ghost story?
Yes. I I told you before we started, I have a personal one.
Okay.
And this takes place back when I was like 18 or 19. I worked at, it's called the U.S. Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. And there, it's the largest Air Force museum in the world. They have more planes and rockets and stuff than even the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. It's ginormous. And if you ever get to Dayton, it's a must see. It's really cool. Well, I worked there and I became friends with the guards there who are all military, like Air Force police. They're called SPs. I don't know what that meant, but they're basically like MPs, but for the Air Force. And they would guard it, and they would tell me that how they wouldn't patrol inside the museum because they had instances of things. And one of the stories was back in the day, one of the bombers that dropped the bomb over, yeah, I think it was over uh, Nagasaki, because I
Mhm.
think the one that dropped the one over Hiroshima is here at the Air and Space Museum in DC, but they have the one that dropped the one over Nagasaki, and and it could be flipped. I could be wrong, but it's one of the two. Anyway, the story is that when you walk back there, there's these giant lights that were like fluorescent lights, and they're huge. They weigh a ton, but at night it would swing like a pendulum, like this over thing, and it was only at night. And there's no air ducts anywhere, and there's all these other ones, and they're completely still. They're not moving at all, and that's the story. And supposedly, if you go to the back area, you would see a little Japanese child crying underneath. And so I always worked during the day and I'd heard the stories. Well, there was an event where I ended up getting to work at night. And I was talking to ASP, he goes, well, you want to go back there and see if it's going? I was like, sure, let's do it. And so we walk back, we get around the corner, and we get right into the opening of the hangar, and we look up, and that thing, no lie, was going like steady, like,
Ooh.
and it's huge.
Mhm.
And I'm like just looking, and all the others are completely still. And he goes, you want to go back and see if there's any, like a little kid crying under? I was like, no, I don't want to. Now, this guy had another story that he had patrolled one time, and there's a B-17 bomber
Mhm.
right next to it. And he was patrolling, and because he was just like Mr. Badass. And he didn't, he's like, that's not going to scare me. So he went back, and all of a sudden he heard like a click, 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 click. And he turns and looks, and the machine gun from the B-17 bomber is pointed right at him. And it sounds like someone's pulling the trigger. And
Ah.
he said that was the last time he ever went back there.
Oh
He'll
my
never again. I do have one other story if you want to hear it.
Sure, yeah.
Last one.
Okay,
This
okay.
this one involves my grandma. Um, when my grandma got married, her cousin Eddie had promised her this china that was, I think it was her dad's or her mom's, and he had it. Well, he had died, and no one knew where the china was. And one night, like right before her wedding, uh, and she was really upset because she wanted it, for her family. But, he had died a couple years earlier. Well, she was laying in bed and she felt someone like tap her like foot. And she looked up and it was her cousin Eddie. And, he'd been dead a couple years. And he just said, hey, Charlotte, it's in my attic. And he told her exactly where this stuff was.
Hmm.
And then he was gone. And so she was just like, okay. And so the next day she got up, went to his house, talked to his wife. They went up into the attic, found the box, and there was the china. And
Whoa, dude.
yeah, so it's like, and and my grandma would tell you about that. Like she passed on now, but like that
Mhm.
was one of her stories that she remembered, like him coming and tell her exactly where to find it. So I thought that was always a cool one. Like, but mine was kind of fun, pendulum
Oh,
lights and stuff. But
no, I loved both of those. Thank you so
yeah,
much. I just love stories like that too.
yeah,
Yeah, just no, something to it, man. Something's going
yeah,
on.
yeah.
All
I
right.
think there's afterlife. I think where
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Absolutely.
yeah,
That's a whole other conversation. Well, we'll have
yeah,
to talk
yeah.
about it on your show. I don't know.
Yes,
I'm
exactly. Yeah,
down.
I'll
I'm
have to
into
have
it.
you come on. All right, cool.
Absolutely.
Do
Well,
it.
thank you so much for those. And
Thank you for
why
having me.
don't,
This is fun.
of course, this has been so much fun. Why don't you tell everybody where they can follow you, find you online, and where to pick up these books?
All
Yay.
right. Well, I'll start with the books. All the books are on Amazon. You can either get a hardback. I think hardbacks are 20. Paperbacks, I think, are 15 or 16. I have to look. Sorry if I'm not exact. But I try to keep everything 20 and under because I know, people, that's money you could be using somewhere else.
Sure.
So, I try to keep it. And that's also why I'm doing it in volumes as opposed to one giant one. And you can thank my wife for that because I was just putting stuff together. That's also why I was able to put out 3 this quickly because I had everything done. And then she's like, you should do volumes because that's going to be a very expensive book the way you're doing it. And to print that up with all because everything, like I said, everything, it's all colored and,
Mhm.
it's all like, the photos and her pictures and everything are all colorized in. So that's on Amazon. You can
Mhm.
find me on YouTube. I think it's, if you type in the Fedora Files or Fedora CRT, you'll find me on YouTube. And then if you go to Instagram, it's G-Fedora crypto, I believe.
Okay.
Um, I
I'll be
believe
sure to
that's right.
get to, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
double check
I know those are that it's all that like G-Jazz Fedora crypto, which I didn't think about when I did it because now I get people who are all into
um,
cryptocurrency always asking me questions
mm.
and I tell them I don't know. I don't know anything about cryptocurrency.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah.
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 It's yeah, like that's the story of my life. I write things and then it's like, oh, I should have thought that through and like maybe called it G Fedora cryptid, but no.
Although they do now make actual like cryptocurrency.
Oh, really?
I
Nice.
saw something. I think it's an image of Sasquatch. And I
Nice.
cannot I want to say they just call it cryptocurrency, but it's
Cryptocurrency.
like, a play on the
Nice. Well,
actual,
I
yeah.
I might have to invest in it. I will look and see if I see the Walpertinger, and if it's a white one, I'm buying. I am buying.
Okay.
That's the thing. Follow me for more financial advice of using monsters to determine your future.
Okay. All right. Gregory, would you like to leave us with any final thoughts, words of wisdom, or a piece of advice?
Piece of advice. Uh, I think the biggest piece I would say is always just don't mentally grow up. You can't stop yourself from physically growing up, but mentally be like a kid, which a child is so open to people and wanting to learn and wanting to know things, and they're inquisitive. Like all my kids and my nephews and stuff, they're always asking why, how, when, where, why is it this way? I think as we get older, we stop caring about those things. But I think keep wondering why, how, and when, because we don't know. Like things are changing all the time and we're learning new things all the time. So I think it's just be like a kid, always ask questions and look for the answers. And if you don't like the answer, keep looking because sometimes the answers change. You know, like we learn that daily. Like we learned something 10 years ago. Now we're like, oh, it's not that way at all. So, constantly look and ask questions. That's it.
Gregory Fedora, host of the Fedora Files, author of Happy Little Monsters. Hang on, after we finish this, we're going to jump backstage and talk about Bigfoot. But for now, thank you so much for joining me on this episode.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a blast. I'd love to be on anytime you want.
Thank you so much to Gregory Fedora. I had a lot of fun getting to talk with you, and I cannot wait to have you back on. Maybe there's some Christmas cryptids needing to be addressed in our near future. Listeners, please visit his links that I have included below. Check him out. Take a look at his website, fedoracrt.com. It's very entertaining. There's something over there for everybody, I promise. Gregory did, in fact, also join me backstage on the Patreon, and we did, in fact, talk Bigfoot. Why have we not found the body? How is he so successfully elusive? How has he consistently evaded our attempts to find him? Gregory had some thoughts. Check it out, patreon.com/ParanormGirlPod, yo. Follow the show at Paranorm Girl Pod on all socials and YouTube. Don't forget to shoot your spooky story for the Halloween live stream to paranormgirlpod@gmail.com. Please note that it's for the live stream anywhere in your message. With that, we will wrap today's episode. Next week, we are talking about signs and evidence of Sasquatch. See you guys Tuesday. Stay safe, keep the nightlight on, and sleep with one eye open.